the persons who come on the boards should understand cultures, your own culture, the other cultures where you are going to be present, where you are going to expand. That cultural sensitivity is very important. What in my opinion is very, very important is the attitude of the person. So I need someone who is very positive minded, who always says, okay, the glass is half full. I want to make sure that if he's going to hire me, I will give that value, but then he jolly well should listen to my advice.
Right.
I'm not in the business of couriering CVs and just presenting some candidates. I come with a lot of value addition, and you pay for my alchemy. You must have, apart from your core area, a very good understanding of the global trends. Before you hire, tell him, these are my expectations, and the candidate will also question it. Today, what is happening? Candidates also interviewing the promoters. In India, many of the promoters want to wear both hats. They want to be the professional at the same time the Malik. Though there are people who have gone beyond that. Dr. Mashelkar is an example. He has gone, he comes from a very academic and R&D oriented, but then later he has blossomed into it. Those are the exceptions. Doing something which is out of the box. So think deeply about it, create that USP and bring that to the table. And that's where you will add value. If you don't have the basic ingredients, it will not work. So my job is to see the ingredients are there, there's sort of the right type of tadka is there, and that's when the magic happens.
Hello everyone. Welcome to this series of podcasts where leaders thrive. We are here to decode the director's language today. How is it that the directors shape the future of governance? And with us today is Mr. Ramgopal Rao. Thank you, sir, for joining us in this podcast, and we look forward to hearing you in the course of this podcast.
It's my pleasure, Neha, to come here, especially on a nice, cozy, rainy day in Pune. It's lovely to meet you. Good that you have come on this side of the hills.
Thank you. So, sir, we would love to hear from you your story about the journey of 48 years of experience that you have, and would want to share this podcast with that. So, please share with us your journey.
It's my pleasure. I'll start at the very beginning. I grew up in Bombay, as it was known in those days, finished my schooling, college, and then jumped into business at the age of 24. And, during my school and college days, I had a lot of Gujarati friends, Marwadi friends. So I typically and my first name, Ramgopal, is typically a Marwadi surname. So all my friends used to say, we'll make you an honorary Agarwal. Because my first name is Ramgopal.
Yeah.
So that's on a lighter note. But I got into business. I did trading in textiles. I did some packaging, and finally a little bit of marketing of soya bean products.
Wonderful.
So 15 years went by in a jiffy, and out of the blue an opportunity came. Someone asked me, can you recommend a person? We are expanding in Dubai. That time Dubai was coming up, and since I've always been the networking type. I used to be member of various chambers of commerce. I was connected with all types of social organizations. So they said, could you do that? So pro bono, I did this little bit of looking around, and I suggested a person who was promptly hired by them. And the backstory is that person stayed with them for 22 years.
Amazing.
But that gave me and opened the wonderful world of recruitment, of executive search. And I said, this is what I should have been doing. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I had picked up, I'd done different businesses. So, they say in, the last resort of this scoundrel is politics. But, they say the last resort of persons who have tried different businesses is headhunting. So I got into that business. I just jumped into it. I decided that this is something which I really love, because I enjoy three things. I enjoy people. I'm very people-oriented, people-centric. I like to travel. As of today, I've been to 43 countries.
Amazing.
And I read a lot. I read about everything under the sun. I can talk for 10 minutes on any subject, and the 11th minute, the other person thinks I know everything, so he doesn't ask me. So the conversation stops there with the impression that I know everything. So that was something which the recruitment business gave me in ample sort of scope to do, is to talk in the morning to an automaker, in the afternoon to an investment banker, and in the evening to a media honcho.
True.
So I said, this is it. If I can do business with pleasure, nothing like it. And that's how my journey began. So 33 years and counting, I've been in it. I'm now going to be on the 1st of November, 73 years old. The hair is still black. I don't dye it. And I feel in my mind I'm only 38. Or shall I say 27.
So can I say that's the secret of you being young and lively yet?
That is one. But the main thing is you should enjoy what you do.
Very important.
So that is the thing. I did the 15 years, I did very transactional things. I used to export lungis to Singapore. I used to export t-shirts to Japan from Tirupur. But how many lungis can you keep on exporting? I mean, it's the same thing. The one opens an LC, get the packing credit, and you ship the goods out. And you keep repeating it ad infinitum.
True.
But here is something, every day is a new day. Every mandate, every recruitment assignment is something new. And there's great pleasure when you finally place a person. That's what gives me that, the motivation. And I work even now 8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Amazing.
And that's it. That's been my journey. So I have clients today right across the country, pan-India. And I've worked with all cultures, different Indian family-owned businesses. I worked with mid-sized companies, large listed Indian corporates. I worked with multinationals, West European, British, American. So that is something which I really, I have a wide gamut of experience when it comes to executive search.
Superb. So me being into HR, I can completely understand what it feels to speak to people and connect with them when you love it as your passion. My next question here to you was, you mentioned about headhunting, and your, the venture that you have named is Head and Heart. So please help us decode what you mean.
Ours is a global company.
Yeah.
And we sort of, we branded it Head and Heart because today recruitment has changed a lot. Technology is used, artificial intelligence, a whole lot of things, with Chat GPT, everything is, there's a lot of automation happening. But in leadership recruitment, the last mile is you need the heart, you need the, I like to look at myself as an organ transplant surgeon. I get a candidate who's like an organ. There's a body corporate that's like a human body. But before I do the transplant, I have to make sure the blood type, the chemistry, the DNA, all that matches.
The
last mile cannot be done by AI or something. The last mile is the heart. So we combine. So we are not old-fashioned. We don't say everything is to be done by heart, because that's what we used to do in the old days. But we combine the two, and Head and Heart. And of course, this thing is HAH, is something what we felt is a brand which resonates with our business and which gives completeness to the whole recruiting process.
I think this is a really very important and, a different concept that you have brought together here. With this, I come to my next question to you is, while we see that, people are always considered as a very important resource in the entire organization, they drive all the cultural changes. They are the people who would actually, work on the profits of the companies, the profit and loss of the company. While we see that they are always considered as an important asset to the organization, the human salaries or the salaries that are there is always on the expense side of the balance sheet. What is your take on that?
Yeah, but there's a sea change coming there. What you said is right, especially in legacy companies. HR, a certain amount, they were more like cost centers. But today, you are having some people who became CHROs who have become the CEOs of companies. Because at the end of the day, what is a business? Business is men, by that I mean women also,
Yeah.
materials, money, and the brand. These are the four components that consists of a business. To drive all that, you require the human part is vital, is self-evident.
True.
You may have all the money, you may have all the material, your brand will be great, but with the people or the human element is not there. I mean, it is practically zero.
True.
So this reset of the mind is important, and that's what's happening today. So both we having leadership coming, which comes from an HR background and also from the finance background. Earlier, the sales people and they were becoming CEOs. But today you have people coming from HR and also from finance. Earlier the finance they will look more as bean counters. They were looking at But today the CFO also in alignment with this CEO drives the business. It's a strategic mindset. So same thing with the CHRO and the CFO. The whole paradigm is shifting, and what you say will happen. It takes time. Any change is very osmotic, but it will happen and it can happen faster than you can imagine.
With this in the background, now what I want to understand from you is there is a lot of there are a lot of companies or startups that are coming into IPO, right? And there are a lot of SMEs and MSMEs as well. What is the need of leadership recruitment or leadership hiring at those levels in terms of either their co-founders or maybe the senior executives in these startups or MSMEs?
Yeah, when it comes to recruitment here, it's a slightly different mindset. You need candidates who can run, because a VC or a private equity requires us. They come with a very clear thing. They will 5 years, then they will do an IPO or they will sell it to another private equity.
Correct.
And they want to exit with a 3x, 5x, whatever. To do that, the portfolio company where they have invested, the leadership there has to be in sync. They have to be in tandem. There have to be a sense of urgency. And there has to be reportings, because they will sit on the boards if they are investors. So they need everything to be, in a very systematic. So it's a very different mindset and a culture from a traditional company which is growing in a sort of a organic way. Whereas here you're looking at rapid deployment, you're looking at scaling up, you're looking at building something at a much more greater speed. So for do all that, you require someone who can also run with the baton. You require someone who has to have that key attributes. So I also recruit for private equity firms in their portfolio companies, because they know that they need someone who can potentially look and headhunt from outside. Because in a company where they invested some of the old folks there, old as in the legacy
in the organization since a long time,
they may not have that DNA. They want someone who is much more proactive, very, and maybe slightly younger. So that is where we come in. So we understand the psyche of the private equity, and we also understand which candidates can resonate with that, and of course make the company IPO ready or take it to the next level.
Wonderful. So how is it that you map those right candidates to the organizations, whether it is with use of some technology or whether it is with use of some psychometric tests that generally the HRs do? So what is your way of handling these kind of situations?
See, personally I'm talking, that is my philosophy.
Yeah.
I'm not too much into psychometrics. I personally have what I call my Rao intuition or the Rao compass, where I can sense someone. That comes through experience. It's like in the old days in the textile industry. Just by feeling the cloth, they could tell what is the count construction on the fabric, just by feeling. So this is something which I personally, because there are of course those who practice and they have all types of psychometric tests, but psychometric tests are based on sampling. So they could be right 80%, but I could also be right 80%.
Yes.
So I personally don't buy much into the psychometric part of the hiring process, but we map it through. Today we have things like LinkedIn, we have job portals. So, but that just gives you the raw material. What you need to do is to do that conversation, understand obviously the past history, the track record, but more than that is a physical understanding, the body language, and find out, that mindset, the attitude. What in my opinion is very, very important is the attitude of the person. So I need someone who is very positive minded, who always says, okay, the glass is half full, not the glass is half empty. I need someone who says, I can do it, but I may need some help, but who's willing to learn and unlearn.
That's important.
Both. Unlearning is also important and learning is important, obviously.
Right.
So this is what I basically look in candidates when I have to recruit for the type of companies you're talking about, where they are ramping up and they are sort of getting ready for an IPO, or the PE firm wants to sell it to another. In fact, create that valuation for the company.
Wonderful. So, as you rightly mentioned, creating about the valuation of that company, right? These human resource or the talent that goes to the company has to be rightly chosen. So, what do you see the parameters from the promoter's perspective that comes in when they want to kind of onboard some independent directors today?
One thing, I'm very blunt with my clients. I'm not that one, the guy will say yes sir to just because he gives me an assignment. I'm like a doctor, as I said earlier, organ transplant surgeon.
Yeah.
I know my trade, and I want the purpose of really going for an IPO is to create shareholder wealth. In India, many of the promoters want to wear both hats. They want to be the professional at the same time the Malik, They want to be the Setia, at the same time they want it to have they are mutually exclusive. You should step aside, ensure that you have someone who will resonate with you. A certain amount of cultural matching is required.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, an owner is an owner. 80% of businesses in the world are family owned, believe it or not.
True.
Sometimes people in India say multinationals. I said 80% of the multinationals are family owned. Because here, they equate like what they call Lala company. They are family owned. They will only want. But today that is changing. And the promoters also, and a good promoter, because I'm also very picky about my clients. I want to make sure that if he's going to hire me, I will give that value, but then he jolly well should listen to my advice.
Right.
I'm not in the business of couriering CVs and just presenting some candidates. I come with a lot of value addition, and you pay for my alchemy. You're not paying. Today, you can download hundreds of profiles from any of the portals or any of the LinkedIn-like type of platforms.
Yeah.
So with that, this thing is very clear that the promoter needs to be very objective, is to stand aside a bit at times and let the do. But give the clear-cut roadmap. Before you hire, tell him, these are my expectations. And the candidate will also question it. Today, what is happening? Candidates also interviewing the promoters and the
Equally,
companies.
yes.
It's not that, they are giving you jobs,
True.
Earlier, they always felt they were on one particular pedestal. Others were job seekers.
Correct.
That era is gone. So it is a partnership. It's about the chemistry has to be there, and he has to, the promoter must be able to tell the potential CEO, this is my vision, and the potential CEO has to be able to internalize that and make it part of his DNA.
True.
And that where I come in to help to do that matchmaking.
Wonderful.
But again, I would say you can't give 100% fitment. 85% is good enough. Then rest is like marriage. once you get married, the first year you will have a little bit of turbulence.
True.
But you'll settle down as long as the masala is there.
Right.
If you don't have the basic ingredients, it will not work. So my job is to see the ingredients are there, the sort of the right type of tadka is there, and that's when the magic happens.
Wonderful. A lot of NRC committees are really very active in the boardrooms. There are a lot of thought through profiles that they go through, and then they onboard those independent directors on boards. I would like you to highlight on the role of those independent directors and the NRC committee interactions, because you've been part of many. So how is it that those interactions happen? What is it that is the requirement of those committees? And how is it that independent directors are kind of shaping up to those expectations?
Typically, as you rightly said, the NRC is the one which will give out the mandate. We work on mandates.
Yeah.
I don't attempt recruiting any independent directors if they are going to ask from 10 different sources.
Correct.
So that's why it's not that it's not like on success based. So they hire me, then obviously the NRC has a briefing with me. What is it they are looking at? What is the type of the vision they have for the independent director? So based on that knowledge, I go out, I do my own market the mapping, the research, and come out with a selection of say 4 or 5 potential candidates.
Right.
And obviously I would brief them to, this is what the company is expecting, this is the expectation of the promoters, and get to understand their philosophy and their. At the end of the day, an independent director is a custodian. Is someone who is there. He needs to be able to understand the business itself, and they could come from different areas, but certain commonalities, as we know, like finance, it's a must.
Correct.
You can't, without having that basic rudimentary knowledge, you can't. It's again, as I keep saying, men, money and materials and the brand. You must know everything. You must know a little bit about sales. You must know a little bit about marketing. You must know about compliance. You must know about finance. You must know a little bit about legal. Little bit. It's about your general knowledge.
Correct.
We are not looking for an expert. But one area you must have that core competency, because that adds to the luster of the board. It adds to the, that's where in the board, the Navratnas, they shine.
Right.
Each one brings his viewpoint, and the whole rainbow is then that's a jewel, in the crown of that particular organization.
I've recently heard about rainbow boards because it comprises of diversity. It comprises of the right kind of skill set required on the boards as well. So not only in terms of gender, in terms of the skill set gap that we speak about, also when independent directors are on the board, the specific area of their expertise that they contribute to the boards. So how do you see this rainbow board as a concept, and what are the important criteria that you look upon? Yeah, like for instance, let's take an example of a auto manufacturer who's like maybe Indian, but an Indian multinational. Now they are in markets other than India because they export, and they are into automotive. Now obviously an independent director there should, as I said, the basics of any business they should know, but they should also have an area which is unique to them, which they can bring. It may be a knowledge. If they are exporting to the United States, they must bring maybe that knowledge of that country where they are exporting. Or if they are looking at a particular type of a market entry, so you should know what is happening in other parts of the world. Like we are talking, a lot of it is like the automotive world is going electric. Correct.
Electric mobility
EV.
is coming. So that the director should have an understanding. He may not be an auto specialist, but he should know the trends, the mega trends which are there, and how that will impact the business. So you should have that ability to see in the next 5 years what can happen, and he brings that knowledge to the board and tells, because it takes times to percolate, The
Right.
board is at the very top, the apex body, but it takes time for it to go down to the line managers and all that. So
Right.
I would look at someone who is one of the good choices for a board member is someone who's a headhunter, because he knows about many businesses, he knows about many type of cultures, he deals with different type of companies, so he has a good idea. So that's just in a lighter vein, but you must have, apart from your core area, a very good understanding of the global trends.
Interesting. So, global trends keeping in mind, and also we spoke about some CEOs whom you help hire CEOs. How do you see those role of those CEOs in taking this global economy or India to the next global economy, and where is it that these CEOs contribute the most? Apart from the business, definitely, but where is it that these CEOs, if they are HR personnel, how is it that they contribute the most?
See, today, as you know, we are in a global village. One end of the village is India, the other could be some developed countries. But the persons who come on the boards should understand cultures, your own culture, the other cultures where you are going to be present, where you are going to expand. That cultural sensitivity is very important. So, general knowledge, as I said, awareness of the trends,
Right.
cultural sensitivity, a sense of diversity. That's where, Indian males tend to be more patriarchal. They should shed that mindset and look at how gender diversity, and of course in countries like color, that all forms part of the diversity program. So this sensitivity and knowledge is very, very important, and these are things, they are not specialist things. This is your generally, you should, if you're a good reader, you read your papers, you watch your TV, you will know. So I want that type. I don't want someone who's like you take an R&D scientist who just sits in his laboratory and he comes. So he will not fit into a board.
Correct.
Though there are people who have gone beyond that. Dr. Mashelkar is an example. He has gone. I mean, he comes from a very academic and R&D oriented, but then later he has blossomed into.
Correct.
Those are the exceptions. So you need that. You have to be a generalist, you have to be a futurist, and you have to be very practical on what is happening now. So that's my little bit of take on.
Wonderful. I want to take up 2 points here. You mentioned about being a generalist. There are a lot of HR professionals who are generalist, who would think that, whether their experience would add somewhere to the boards or not, because they have been doing bits and pieces of everything, but have not kind of, gone deep dive into one particular area of HR. So what is your take on that?
I don't say harm if the person had a generalist background, but once he comes on the board, there's also once you come on board, that's when the journey begins. You have to learn on the job, and you need to then focus on areas, even in the HR gamut, areas where you feel you have a passion for it. It could be diversity, it could be recruitment from a gender perspective, it could be the not so privileged. So all this type of certain niche areas, you must pick up knowledge, you must interact with people who today are experts, and if you are able to do that, I don't see as being a journalist anyway. In fact, I feel a journalist is sometimes more open to ideas.
Okay.
Because he is a journalist, he doesn't feel, he's not a specialist, he's like a left nostril specialist, or he's a person who he sees the holistic picture.
True.
But in that, as you rightly said, it's important to pick up issues which are currently resonating, what the world outside is talking about, and how to implement that in the company, so that in the overall matrix, it sort of fits in well.
Wonderful. What is the role of mentoring and training at the board level is what you perceive?
Yeah, mentoring at any level is very important because we are all human. We have our blind spots, we have our positive. If you do a SWOT analysis, we have our strengths, weaknesses, etc.
Yeah.
So a third party who has sort of got that experience can bring insights. That's where I talked earlier about learning and unlearning. You can unlearn a lot of things. So mentoring is a very, very important part of your growth story.
Interesting. What is the role of platforms like Mentor My Board is what you foresee for the change in the ecosystem that we are looking towards?
Yeah, because today business is getting more structured. It is getting universal. So anything universal requires a certain frameworks. And in frameworks, you require processes, you require systems. And any structured approach will obviously yield its dividends. So, the example of Mentor My Board is one such platform, and a proliferation of such platforms will create the ecosystem. It will bring in transparency, it will bring in everything, right from ease of doing business to honesty and value for money, all comes out of this type of a. So yours is one of the earlier pioneering attempts, as I see. I've been connected last 2 years, and I've experienced it. I've come to your various, get-togethers as well as meetings, and anything which is done with that passion and attention for detail. Because I like attention for detail. I even see how your website is done. If there are any spelling mistakes in any of your communications, I'm very, very particular about it. So far, I can give you an A+.
Right. The last question in the series, sir, but it was indeed a wonderful discussion entirely. As an HR professional, what are those 2 or 3 tips that you would want to share with the audience? Because there are a lot of HR professionals out there in the community who would want to learn and would want to know how is it that they can contribute best towards the boardrooms.
One is, as HR professionals, you have to be really passionate about HR. It is not a job, it's a vocation, it is a calling, it is something sacred. So that passion has to be there. And that's what I would urge, people who really want to make a difference, to create that USP by doing something which is out of the box. So think deeply about it, create that USP and bring that to the table. And that's where you'll add value. You cannot just be just a vanilla, If you want to be really a tutti frutti or something more than that, you need to have that extra special spark. And that comes through an effort. So it has to be a learning on the job also. And it's an ongoing process. It's like work in progress.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And it was really pleasure interacting with you. Thank you for joining us, Ramgopal.
Likewise, it's a pleasure talking to you, Neha, and I look forward to more encounters.
Yes, equally.